The Eternal Voyage, Part 1, Into the Void. Prologue, The Dying Earth. The year was 2984, and Earth was on the brink of collapse. Centuries of war, environmental devastation, and reckless exploitation had left the planet barely habitable. The atmosphere was poisonous, the oceans acidic, and the last remnants of civilization clung to life in underground cities, shielded from the dying sun's radiation. Humanity's only hope lay in the stars. For decades, scientists had worked on a single project, the Ark, the most ambitious spacecraft ever built. It was a generation ship designed to carry the last survivors of Earth to Proxima Centauri b, a planet believed to be habitable. The journey would take 300 years. It was humanity's last chance. And so, the Ark launched, carrying 500,000 souls, scientists, engineers, artists, leaders, and ordinary people into the unknown. But space is vast, and it is full of secrets. Chapter 1, The Awakening. Commander Lena Vos awoke to the blaring of emergency alarms. She sat up in her cryostasis pod, her body stiff from decades of suspended animation. Around her, other crew members were stirring, groggy and confused. The emergency lights flickered red, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Something was wrong. She tapped her wrist console. AI core, status report. A cold, mechanical voice responded. Warning, system failure detected. Hull breach in Sector 7. Unknown anomaly detected in navigation logs. Lena's heart pounded. The Ark was off course. She quickly unfastened the restraints and climbed out of her pod. Around her, fellow officers groaned as they too awoke, their bodies adjusting to consciousness after their long stasis. She turned to Lieutenant Ramos, her second-in-command, who was rubbing his temples. "Are we under attack?" Ramos asked, still disoriented. "Unknown," Lena replied, pulling up a holographic map of the ship. AI core, confirm location. The pause before the response was too long. Coordinates unrecognized. We are no longer in map space. Lena felt a chill run down her spine. Chapter 2, A Ghost in the Machine. The bridge was in chaos. Captain Darius Holt, leader of the expedition, stood before a massive holographic star map, his face pale. "We're not in Proxima system," he said, voice tight. Lena frowned. "Then where are we?" Jonas Rell, the ship's navigator, analyzed the data. His fingers trembled over the controls. This doesn't make sense," he stammered. "We've traveled farther than we should have. Thousands of light years." A stunned silence filled the bridge. That was impossible. The ship didn't have the propulsion capability for such a jump, unless something or someone had interfered. And then, the ship's AI spoke again. Anomaly detected. Unauthorized presence on board. A chill ran down Lena's spine. They were not alone. As the crew scrambled to make sense of the data, an eerie humming noise echoed through the ship's corridors. It was rhythmic, unnatural, almost like a voice murmuring just below the range of hearing. "Captain, we have to secure all decks," Lena urged. "Whatever caused this jump might still be here." Holt nodded. "Security teams, full sweep. Find out what the hell is happening." Deep in the ship, far from the command center, something watched them, and it was waiting. Chapter 3, The Echoes of the Void. Security teams swept through the Ark, searching for any intruders. But what they found was far worse. Deep within the maintenance decks, they discovered strange symbols burned into the walls, ancient, unfamiliar script glowing with an unnatural blue light. And then they found the first body, one of the engineers, eyes wide open in terror, his body contorted, his veins glowing with the same eerie light. His mouth was frozen in a silent scream. Dr. Alara Quinn, the ship's chief scientist, examined the corpse. "This isn't a disease," she whispered. "It's something else." Lena's grip tightened around her sidearm. Something is inside this ship. And then the lights flickered. A whisper echoed through the corridors. A voice, speaking in a language older than time itself. Something had awakened. Chapter 4. The Forgotten Ones. Ilera spent hours analyzing the strange symbols. What she discovered sent shockwaves through the crew. "They're a message," she said. "And they're not human." She looked at Lena and the captain, her face pale. "These markings describe a warning. This ship is not where it should be." Lena exhaled sharply. "Then where are we?" Jonas hesitated before answering. "We're inside a region of space known as the Silent Expanse." Captain Holt's face darkened. The Silent Expanse was a place feared even by the most advanced alien civilizations. A region where ships vanished. A place where time and space warped. A place where something waited. And now, the Ark was trapped inside it. Part 2. The Abyss Beyond. Chapter 5. The Shattered Reality. A deafening wail tore through the Ark's corridors. An unnatural sound that made the air itself tremble. Lena clutched her head, a sudden migraine blinding her vision. Around her, the crew collapsed, gripping their skulls in agony as something pressed into their minds, invading their very thoughts. Then, as suddenly as it began, the pain ceased. A hollow silence followed. The only sound was the flickering of failing lights. Lena staggered to her feet, her breath ragged. "Status report," she barked, forcing clarity through the haze. The bridge crew slowly regained composure. Ilera's fingers trembled over her scanner. I don't know how to explain this," she whispered. "Our location is changing. Not moving, changing." Captain Holt narrowed his eyes. "What does that mean?" Jonas, still pale from the mental assault, turned his monitor to face them. It showed the external view of the Ark, but the stars were wrong. They shifted, rearranging into impossible configurations, forming symbols that seemed to be watching them back. "We're not in space anymore," Jonas said. "We're somewhere else." A pulse rippled through the ship, and reality fractured. Chapter 6. The Whispers of the Forgotten. The Ark no longer drifted through known space. The ship hung in a void where time stretched and collapsed in paradoxical waves. Stars blinked in and out of existence. The darkness was alive. A voice whispered in Lena's mind. "Why have you come?" She gasped, whipping around, but the bridge was empty. The crew were still there, but frozen, their movements sluggish, their eyes unfocused as if caught between moments in time. The whisper came again, curling around her thoughts like cold tendrils. "You were never meant to be here." The symbols on the walls pulsed, casting eerie blue light. Lena reached out instinctively, her fingers grazing the surface. Images flooded her mind. A vision of an ancient race, their forms shifting and vast, their voices like a chorus of forgotten gods. They had built something, a gate, a bridge between dimensions. And then something came through. The vision shattered as alarms blared. The crew gasped, released from their frozen state. Ramos grabbed Lena's shoulder. "Commander, something is moving outside the ship." They turned to the external cameras. A shape loomed in the darkness. Chapter 7. The Hunger Beyond Time. It was not a ship. It was not a life form. It was something else. An entity without shape, shifting in and out of existence, its form stretching beyond comprehension. It had no eyes, yet they felt its gaze. It had no mouth, yet its whispers bled into their thoughts. Ilera paled. "That's what's been calling us." The Ark's engines roared to life on their own. "We're moving," Jonas shouted, "but I'm not controlling it." The ship lurched forward, drawn toward the entity's impossible form. The stars around them twisted into spirals, pulling them into a singularity. Lena forced herself to breathe. AI core. Override all navigation. Engage emergency thrusters. The AI's voice returned, but it was different. "There is no escape." A new whisper cut through the static. "Join us." The bridge trembled as shadows seeped through the walls. They took shape, humanoid but wrong. Distorted figures with hollow eyes, their mouths open in silent screams. The lost crew. Jonas screamed as one lunged at him, its fingers phasing through his body. He convulsed, his veins darkening as his face contorted in agony. And then he was gone. Not dead, not vaporized, just removed, as if he had never existed. Lena's breath hitched. We have to go. Now. Chapter 8. The Final Descent. The Ark was being pulled into the singularity. The crew scrambled, fighting against the overwhelming force of the entity's influence. Captain Holt made a desperate decision. If we fire the reactor core, the explosion might push us out of this void. Ilera hesitated. That would destroy half the ship. Holt's expression was grim. Better than all of us vanishing. Lena locked eyes with him. Do it? The command was given. The reactor overloaded, its energy building to a cataclysmic surge. The entity screamed. A force unlike anything they had felt before tore through the ship. The world shattered. Chapter 9. The Other Side. Lena opened her eyes. She was on Earth, but it was wrong. The sky was dark, filled with thousands of shattered moons. Buildings twisted into impossible angles, their structures defying physics. And the people, there were no people, just shadows watching. A whisper drifted on the wind. You brought it with you. Her blood turned to ice. The Ark was gone. The crew was gone. And something had followed her. The eternal voyage had not ended. The end. It had just begun. The end.